y'all.
Well, hello. Welcome to my kitchen. I'm doing something a little different today. We're having a party. Well, it's a birthday party for the sisters this afternoon. Who are the sisters, you ask? Well, they are my husband's sisters, and he has 4 of them. They all happen to be born within almost the same month, and it's rare that we can all get together within that month and see each other. So today I'm doing something a little special for all of them, and right now I'm making a buttermilk pie. This happens to be his oldest sister's, Jennifer's, favorite pie, and every time she comes I have this pie for her. It's also one of my favorites. Well, it starts with a few simple ingredients. The star of the show is whole buttermilk. Make sure that you get whole buttermilk because I've made the mistake of using low-fat buttermilk in this recipe, and I can tell you it is not the same. The consistency is different, and also the taste is different. So whole buttermilk is a must in this recipe. We're also using 1 stick of salted melted butter. Now you can use unsalted butter in this recipe, but if you do, you need to add in a dash of salt. It's important because the salt is going to balance the sweet here. We've also got 2 cups of sugar, 3 tablespoons of flour, all-purpose flour. We have 3 eggs at room temperature, a tablespoon of vanilla, and I have some nutmeg that we're going to add at the end. Well, let's get started. As you can see, I have already melted my butter, and I'm going to go ahead and add my buttermilk to this. The recipe calls for 1 cup, and as I said, it's very important that you use whole buttermilk. I'm just going to pour this in here. Now, the first time I ever had this pie, a friend of mine made it for me. Her name is Charlotte, so I'm going to call this Charlotte's pie. I had never had it before, and I've never been a fan of custard. This pie is similar to that, but I can promise you it tastes, in my opinion, much, much better. Well, she invited me over for dinner along with a few other people, and she is a fabulous cook. When I got there, I saw 2 pies sitting on her counter, and I thought, what is that? And I asked her, and she said, buttermilk pie. I thought to myself, ew, buttermilk pie? How am I going to get out of eating this one? Well, I didn't, and I'm so glad that I didn't. The flavor of this pie is buttery, it's sweet, it has the right amount of saltiness in it, and it has just a little twang. I had no idea that buttermilk was in this until she told me. Well, and the name gives it away, obviously, but you don't taste buttermilk. You just taste this something so, so good. Well, as you see, I've got my buttermilk, I've got my eggs and my butter, and I'm gonna whisk this together. Just like this. I know Jennifer is going to love this. I've never served this to Rennie, my husband's what I call 3rd sister. So I'm not sure if she's going to like it, so I'm hoping that it's a win. Well, I've got my eggs in there, and now I'm going to go ahead and add my flour. This is 3 tablespoons of all-purpose flour, and that's going to blend right in. Just turn this around. I've got my wax paper down here. You know I love wax paper. If I get any mess, it won't be directly on my counter, and I can just pick it up and throw it away when I'm done. Well, that's whisked in, and now I'm going to add my sugar. This is 2 cups of granulated sugar. Easy, easy, easy. I'm going to continue to whisk this. Oh yeah. It's already smelling so good. I can smell that buttermilk and butter. Here's a tablespoon of good vanilla. That's going to be delicious. And whisk that in. Changes the color a little bit, gives it a deeper, richer color. Now I'm going to add the nutmeg. To me, the nutmeg makes this recipe. And I have whole nutmeg. The recipe calls for ground nutmeg, but I've got a microplane here and I'm going to grind it myself. This is something that I started using several years ago, and I'll never go back to nutmeg that's already ground. If you have a healthy living section in your grocery store, like H-E-B or Whole Foods, they'll carry nutmeg in that section, whole nutmeg, and look at how that looks. It's just beautiful. And the aroma is so fragrant. Now, this will store in an airtight container for years. Now, the store won't tell you that, but I'm telling you, it will last. And I'm just taking a little bit of this and I'm adding it to my recipe. I'm also going to add this at the end. Now whisk that in, and now I'm ready to pour this in my pie shell. Well, now it comes to the crust. I didn't have a lot of time this weekend, so I'm using one of the frozen store-bought crusts. A lot of times I make my own crust, but I'm in a pinch for time this weekend, so I'm using this. I want it to look really good and have a great presentation. So I've taken it out of the tinfoil pan and I've put it in my own pie server. This is going to really look good at the end of the day. And I'm taking it and I'm going to crimp it right here. I'm just going to take those crimps that are already in my crust and I'm going to press them into my pie pan. Now, I'm not trying to fool anybody here and make them think that I did a homemade crust. I just happen to think that a presentation, a pretty presentation, is important. And my husband's sisters are really special, and I want them to enjoy with their eyes as well as their mouth. When I first met my husband, and we were telling each other about ourselves, I asked him if he had any brothers or sisters. And he said, I've got 4 sisters and I'm the only boy and I'm the youngest. I asked him at that time, I said, oh my gosh, should I run now? I just had this image in my mind of the only son, the doting mother, and the doting 4 older sisters. Well, they definitely dote on their brother, but he's not spoiled by any means. He said, the thing that I learned from my mother and my sisters are how to treat a woman. And that is so true. He treats me beautifully, and I know that his sisters would say the same thing. It's so much fun when we all get together. We laugh and laugh and laugh. Well, my pie crust is ready. This is a raw crust. And I just let it thaw to room temperature so that I could crimp the edges and make it look a little bit more special. Now I've got my filling here and I'm going to go ahead and pour this in. Now this recipe will either make 1 deep dish pie or it'll make 2 of the shallow pies, just the regular pie crusts. Sometimes I make 2 and I keep 1 back for us. But this time I know we'll eat all of it and I'm doing the 1 dish. Okay. Now remember, I told you that there is foam on the top of this. That foam is going to crisp up in the oven. It's not going to make a creme brulee type crust, but it's going to be similar. It is so sweet, and the texture on top is a little bit harder than the texture at the bottom. Then I take my nutmeg and I just top it off with a little extra. On occasion, I'll even add a little granulated sugar on the top, and that makes it extra good. This looks beautiful, and the aroma of that fresh nutmeg, it's heavenly. Look at this pie. It's already beautiful. The top is so nice and foamy, and the nutmeg is all over the top. Now let's get this in the oven. I've got my oven preheated to 400 degrees, and what we're going to do is cook this for 10 minutes at 400, and then we're going to turn the temperature down to 350 and let it bake for another 45 minutes. My pizza stone is in here. I always keep my pizza stone in the oven. I've also put these little doodads around my crust. That way, if my crust gets done before I'm ready to take the pie out of the oven, I'm going to protect it. Now, if you don't have any of those little pie doodads, then use a piece of tin foil. Just make sure that you don't lay the tin foil directly on the top of the pie. I've done that before, and what happened when I peeled the tin foil off the pie, I took off that delicious top layer. It stuck. So I've even tried non-stick tin foil. I'm telling you, don't do it. If you have to do anything and you can't figure out how to keep that from burning, put the tin foil on your top rack and lay that over the top, and that will help to keep some of the heat away from that crust. Well, we'll see you back here in a few minutes. Let me show you what the top already looks like. Do you see that it's getting golden brown? I don't want to leave my oven open too long because I want to keep that hot temperature right up there. I want to show you what the pie looks like. It's almost done. It's got a few more minutes to cook. Now don't let the cracks on top scare you, because it will crack a little bit, but when it cools, those cracks will go right down. That looks so good. Well, the pie has cooled down and the sisters are almost here. I think this turned out perfectly. Look at this crust. It is so light and fluffy. Remember I told you about this topping, this creme brulee topping? Look at what that does. It's going to be crispy and delicious. I can hardly wait to cut into. They're here! They're here! The party's about to start. See you next time. I hope you have a great day. Hey everybody! Well, who wants buttermilk pie?
Oh, I gotta try it. Yay!
That's what I told you. Yeah, it is. It's like a lot like it.
I love custard.
Mm-hmm.
You do?
I thought
Then
you
you might
liked
like this.
This is good. That's what I said. Tasted like it.
Mm-hmm.
I was really thinking. I love you. Give me more, dude.